Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our study of the book of Psalms. Today we come to Psalm 45, and in this psalm, we have something that's actually quite different from any of the other psalms that we've examined up till this point. This psalm is going to be one that is written by the sons of Korah, and it is going to be, for lack of a better term, a love letter that is going to be utilized to describe the relationship between God and his people, or God and the ones who are servants of God, those who are seeking to be his people. And so it's going to develop in two different parts. You're going to have in the first part this beginning composition concerning God as the king, and then in the second part, you're going to have a message about the one who is described as the daughter. And this is actually the daughter that is uh, betrothed or to be wedded to the king. And so, but it's written in this very flowery love language type of layout. So let's examine Psalm 45, and then we'll pull the main themes out of it and try to bring in some lessons to pull it all together. Notice Psalm 45. Beginning in verse 1, we read, My heart is overflowing with a good theme. I recite my composition concerning the king. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer. You are fairer than the sons of men. Grace is poured upon your lips. Therefore God has blessed you forever. Gird your sword upon your thigh, O mighty one, and your glory and with your glory and your majesty. And in your majesty ride prosperously because of truth, humility, and righteousness. And your right hand shall teach you awesome things. Your arrows are sharp in the heart of the king's enemies. The peoples fall under you. Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is the scepter of your kingdom. You love righteousness and hate wickedness. Therefore, God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness more than your companions. All your garments are scented with myrrh and aloes and cassia out of the ivory palaces by which they have made you glad. King's daughters are among your honorable women. At your right hand stands the queen in gold from Ophir. Listen, O daughter, consider and incline your ear. Forget your own people also and your father's house. So the king will greatly desire your beauty, because he is your Lord. Worship him. And the daughter of Tyre will come with a gift. The rich among the people will seek your favor. The royal daughter is all glorious within the palace. Her clothing is woven with gold. She shall be brought to the king in robes of many colors. The virgins, her companions who follow her, shall be brought to you. With gladness and rejoicing they shall be brought. They shall enter the king's palace. Instead of your fathers shall be your sons, whom you shall make princes in all the earth. I will make your name to be remembered in all generations. Therefore the people shall praise you forever and ever. This little psalm has a lot of interesting dynamics to it. There's a lot of things here that are kind of back and forth, and while the subject seems to almost be shifting constantly between God and the servant of God, the people of God, at the same time, it's this continuous theme throughout of the relationship being intertwined. And so let's pull a couple of things out. In the first sections of the psalm, you have the discussion of preparing yourself and girding your sword upon your thigh, O mighty one, and all of these different things. But this culminates with the statement that is made in verse 6 that the throne of God, he says, your throne, O God, is forever and ever. In other words, God is going to remain on the throne forever. He is the king that is over all. And as such, there is no one that is going to take his place. There is never going to be a time when God will cease to be on the throne. And so you have this dynamic that is being regarded where, in all of the relationships between men and God, God is always the one on the throne. He is always the king. And it's our responsibility to come to Him, and to come to Him as the king, not as the one who is going to dictate demands based on what I want, but as one who has come to be a servant of the king and to enter into a relationship with the king. And so you have the statements that are made in the first half of the psalm that talk about the things that the Lord teaches, and the things that the Lord is willing to do and willing to give. But it all centers around who we are and whether or not we are willing to come to Him. And that kind of leads into the second half of the psalm, because beginning in verse 7, it talks about the fact that God loves righteousness and hates wickedness. And then he says, therefore, God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness more than your companions. And then in verse 10, he says, listen, O daughter, consider and incline your ear. Now, it's being used in a figurative sense, it's being used in a representative sense of the one who is being brought to God to be His. And it is the principle that is being taught of, look at all of the beauty, look at all of the glory, look at all of the love and the honor that is going to be bestowed upon you, and that is bestowed upon you in your relationship to God. All of the flowery things that are talked about throughout the remainder of the psalm are indicative of God loving and cherishing and taking care of those who come to Him and those who seek to be His. As a matter of fact, the psalm closes in verses 16 and 17 and says, instead of your fathers shall be your sons, whom you shall make princes in all the earth. I will I will make your name to be remembered in all generations. Therefore the people shall praise you forever and ever. The relationship back and forth between what God is going to do for man and those who are going to serve Him and be obedient to Him, and what man is going to do in relating who God is to the next generation. You see here this, for lack of a better term, love letter that is going to be written about the relationship between God and His people and those who love Him and seek to serve Him. It is a very different type of psalm than most that we're going to see. It actually holds much more similarly to some of the poems and things of that nature of the days of Solomon. But it's going to be written seemingly before that particular time. But there's a lot here to be able to try to internalize about the nature of the relationship and the love and the care and concern that God has for His people and that we are supposed to have for Him. So these are the things that I see in Psalm 45. I hope that they are helpful to you. Next time we'll come back and we'll begin looking at Psalm 46. I hope that you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.